I want to highlight some of this. I want to give a shout out to Caleb is Salty on YouTube, if we could pull up this image, who made a great hour-long documentary breaking down this phenomenon. It is shocking to me in that 7 years ago, I covered this on this channel. We called it Elsagate. That this phenomenon had been happening where they were showing Peppa Pig and cartoon animals being forcefully impregnated and injected. The content was getting so many views that it actually resulted in real-world instances where an adult man, and there was one video that had 7 million views, was injecting his daughter in the butt with a syringe. The assumption was that it was saline, but the video itself generated so much attention that he would make a video as such. Caleb is Salty put out this video 3 months ago. Brewing cute pregnant factory, and there's Sonic the Hedgehog pregnant. Here's Rose and Knuckles with big butt cheeks and Sonic with crazy teeth. This is on the YouTube Kids app. And the point I'm bringing up, to go back to the original point I'm making, I cite these things because as a reasonable adult on the left or the right, you understand this is twisting and fracturing the brain of a child. Mm-hmm. They will suffer developmental disabilities and delusions later in life, as well as other psychiatric disorders based on being inundated every day with this psychotic content. What the average adult on the left does not understand is they are being inundated with the exact same content in the political space. Mm-hmm. So when someone like Brian Tyler Cohen has a channel that is literally nothing but screenshots of Donald Trump and titles saying Trump evil, Trump wrong, Trump fascist, and maybe only 1 in 10 is actually about someone else, it is Elsagate for adults. Now, the problem is when an adult looks at Sonic pregnant, they say, okay, this is crazy. You shouldn't watch this. But when someone tells them, here's normal political content, and YouTube promotes it in the exact same way, the adult's brain is fried. They see video after video after video of Charlie Kirk with lies about what he said, quotes out of context, and much like a child thinks men can get pregnant or they have some kind of weird brain disorder based on the hot dog Spider-Man videos that are coming out, the injection videos that are coming out, adults start to think fake things, and I don't believe, and I hope I'm wrong, but I do not believe when a human being has been wired for half their life, starting from childhood, to believe certain things to be true, that you can rewire that in their brain in any way.
You can. Social contagion is like erosion. It happens slowly over time. And then extreme events like what we saw on Wednesday can shatter the mountain into a new shape.
Indeed, I disagree. And that I'm referring to 3-year-olds that are being shown videos of Sonic the Hedgehog being grabbed by metallic arms, jammed into his rectum to impregnate his body. And the parents are making children watch 3 hours a day of this. And it's been going on for 7 years. And these kids are going to grow up. When there are many famous stories of children who have been kidnapped and held in captivity for a long time. There is the famous story of the apocryphal girl raised by wolves. They found a young girl living in a dog kennel. She was unable to learn English.
That's right.
The most she could learn was eat, tired, very simple grunts. And what they said in this story, and many others like this, is that after a certain point, the brain is much more developed and solidified and cannot be wired to understand these things.
I'm actually fascinated with neurogenesis, and psilocybin has been medically aligned. They say that in studies, it will cause people to grow new brain pathways and for the...
Perhaps I don't want to deviate into whatever that is.
But maybe it's a form of therapy.
There is a video
neurogenesis
of U.S. troops in Iraq and Afghanistan trying to teach adult men how to do jumping jacks. I think there's a more formal term for jumping jacks, and they can't.
Why?
These are because their brains never developed the neural pathways to understand this type of mimicry.
Jeez, it's like teaching a person to walk again after they've been paralyzed for a decade or something.
It's not possible.
Well, the brain is malleable.
A person, maybe I'm wrong. My argument is there are certain things your brain develops to understand. As an adult who's become paralyzed and has to relearn how to walk, the brain already has the concept of walking, but is just trying to figure out how to get the signals back to that part of the body. A brain that has never developed the neural pathways to walk likely will not.
Maybe that's cognitive dissonance.
It's not. And this is why you can read all of these different stories about young boys or girls who were raised in a basement locked in a cage when they're now 17 or 18 and they try to teach English to them and they can't learn to speak at all.
I think it is these are the children of the apocalypse. You brought up the word apocalypse. It's a Greek word that means to take away the veil. Apo means to take away, and the veil is calypse, is the veil. So it happened abruptly with the internet. The veil has been removed. Children at age 6 are seeing all this stuff. They're being...
The veil is not taken away.
Well,
it's
partially,
the inverse.
maybe not completely, but
the veil has been placed before them. Yes,
we
a
used
child,
to not see this stuff until...
and that's what the veil is. A child should be seeing a handful of things when they're in developmental years, such as the work the father is doing, the work the mother is doing. They see communication between mother and father about how they're going to live. Every day, my daughter is staring at my wife as she's explaining to me something about business, and she is absorbing that communication and that language and those logical pathways. This is also why we show her shapes, why we have ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, so that the brain will develop these pathways. Never in the existence of humanity has a child been forced to watch hours of Sonic the Hedgehog, and it's ridiculous to say, being forcefully impregnated, or monstrous Sonic screaming at the butt cheeks of Knuckles. And this is just one example in this video. This is not removing the veil. It is placing before them a nightmare reality, it is putting them in Plato's cave.
That's an interesting look at it.
I don't believe...
there's a lot more going on than just what we're seeing on YouTube.
Let's step back from the sheer absurdity that is pregnant Sonic the Hedgehog. And the example that I use, as absurd as it is to exemplify the psychosis that we are experiencing as a society pertaining to politics.
Yeah.
When we see pregnant Sonic collectively as human beings, we can say that is insane. But when they put up a video and they claim Charlie Kirk said that black women don't have the brain power to hold jobs, which he never did and is a lie, they don't understand on the left. They are looking at the political equivalent of a pregnant Sonic the Hedgehog. And we cannot cure them of that. Now, certainly these people, many of them that are older, grew up in a world where this wasn't the case, and they have within their brains the wiring to be broken out of this. Typically, it results in a painful experience, as Brennan Strzok described when it was proven to him that Trump was not mocking a disabled man. He said he felt physical pain, that his body ached when he realized his worldview was wrong. But this is a man in Brandon who grew up in a sane reality. For a child that grows up in this reality of police brutality, fascism, and violence, look at the young people that we're seeing in Gen Z that are 20 years old. 7 years ago, they're 13 years old. They don't care for politics. They're beginning to watch this psychotic content. I'm saying 7 years ago was Elsagate. Mm-hmm. They see this brain-frying garbage, but they also see the far left lying about police brutality, about fascism, about Nazis, about the right, about Trump. Think about this. It has been 10 years, just about, it's been a little bit more than 10 years since Trump descended that escalator.
2015, yeah.
2015. That means a 10-year-old who didn't know anything about it was sitting there on the news as they said a neo-Nazi fascist white supremacist is trying to be president. And they were, oh, that means for half of their life, let's go with an 8-year-old, someone who's going to be voting in this next election. For more than half of their life, they have been told over and over and over again, Sonic is pregnant. And I say that figuratively. When they call Trump a Nazi, when they call Charlie Kirk a Nazi, or me, or anybody else. How do you cure someone of their entire mental state?
The first step is you remove them from the cult. And you turn the TV off, basically.
It's called trauma-based mind control, Tim. So it's done on purpose. Like, they try to demoralize young people and basically fear us into compliance. So that's basically what's happening to these young kids. And I think the psychotropic drugs, too, kind of help them be more compliant. So
I just, to simplify, you are not going to go to me or Alex and say to me, did you know that 2 + 2 = 5? They tried that. Mm-hmm. And liberals all said it did. And they made up insane reasons to justify their ridiculous fake math. No one will ever come to me and say, actually, Tim, gravity doesn't exist, and it's only because you imagine it. Wait. You're never going to tell someone that a fundamental truth of their life is wrong and have them believe you.
Unless you have evidence.
No.
Sometimes.
No
That's
amount of
wrong.
evidence can convince an idiot.
No, that's what science is.
You are absolutely 100% incorrect,
that's
Ian.
what science is.
It is fact. And you know, you guys tell me, when people are confronted with evidence that defies their worldview, they have an emotional anger response. But I am not talking about someone hearing in the news a month ago that Charlie kicked a dog, and then you going to them today and saying, no, he didn't, I'll prove it, and then being like, well, I don't believe you, and then showing them and they go, well, I guess I was wrong. I'm talking about someone who, as a baby, was told that the earth is flat, that there's a giant hole at the center in the North Pole. There are fundamental truths that we believe. You can throw a rock at a window, it's going to break. You will not be able to go to the average person, or I should say, and nothing's absolute, so 99% of the time, someone who is raised to believe something, and then you go to them and say, I can prove to you it's not true. You know what they're going to say? You're the demon they told me about and the liar, and I will never believe you.
Yeah, you need like an authority badge sometimes to get. Well, you got to get them to lower their defenses.
The sun doesn't exist.
If you have evidence, show it to the scientific community, and if it's true, I'll believe it.
So I can show you all the evidence the earth is flat.
But there is a lot
never
of evidence
believe it.
for that. But the scientific community also says that.
And you laughed. And you
I laughed because Alex started talking when you said flat Earth.
because there's evidence.
There is a lot of evidence for it, but neither here nor there. I don't know. I can't even.
You'll never believe the earth is flat.
But some people do escape, right? I mean, we've got people who get raised in cults and raised in Scientology, and later on they decide they're able to break out of that. I mean, what's different about those people that can escape and the others that just stay stuck in there forever, even though it's functional?
I would say nothing is absolute, and you make a good point.
Yeah.
But I would also counter with, in that regard, I do believe there is hope for a lot of people. I'm not saying it's impossible to stop the political hate. The political world and the divide that we see is still rooted in reality. Yeah. It's just, I should say, has a basis in reality, but it's just fake. Charlie Kirk was not a Nazi. That's a lie.
Yeah.
He never said these things. They're making them up. It is very, very hard to break someone out of a 10-year developmental path.
You know, some chart.
But you are right about former Scientologists or whatever, people who are in cults. They do break free. The issue that I think is very great to us now is these kids were raised in a society where they were told one person does one thing, and that is easy to leave and experience something totally different. My concern is the wiring of the brain of an individual at a very, very young age when, the neuroplasticity of a baby is being wired in a direction that they will grow up and they will not be able to rewire. Such as the point I'm making where children who are raised in dog cages, who are rescued later on, can't learn to speak.
I think you're exactly right. I mean, I remember sort of coming out of the left, and there were a lot of things that were like very difficult for me to grapple with. And I was like, no, that can't be. Like, that doesn't work. And some things I remember very distinctly being like, we're going to put aside that core belief for now, and we're going to come back to it later because I can't deal with overturning that right away. And I was raised by smart people. My parents are attorneys, and they both would talk to me a lot and everything. I'm very widely read. And even so, after decades of essentially I wouldn't say necessarily liberal indoctrination because that doesn't feel very good to say that, but going to different educational institutions, being given the Ambien, being on birth control for 16 years, friends on SSRIs, you look at it and you're like, that can't be real. Really? Our entire educational system is wrong? That was the big one for me, was looking at education, which my family had always put so much stock in. And it's hard. It is, I remember Brandon saying that physical feeling, and it's really hard.
I do think a good example of this is, I request, Ian, that you try and convince Jack Posobiec that Jesus is not Lord and was not resurrected.
Well, it's up to him to prove that he was, because I don't trust the media. I mean, if the book tells me something's true, you got to show me the evidence.
And how does that prove? How does that change Jack's mind?
Well, I mean, does he believe the media?
Jack believes what he believes, and you have to convince him otherwise.
It's a piece of media. If he believes the media at face value, then he can do that. I can't.
So you agree
force
with
people
me
to stop.
So you agree with me that you will not change the minds of people.
I can provide a better world. I can provide a better way to think. And if they think this is better than that, then they'll choose to change.
So you agree with my point early on, and you're changing your view.
The thing is, Shabbat. I just learned yesterday, Charlie.
Don't change the subject.
Observed Shabbat, and that's removing yourself from the cult. Is
answer the question.
Turning the TV off on Saturday.
Answer the question.
The question is, you can't force someone to change, but you can provide a better world for them to change to.
You told me that people will change their minds when confronted by evidence.
Sometimes, yeah.
And do you think you can convince a Christian that Jesus is not Lord?
I don't know that. I'm an agnostic. I don't know if he was Lord or not.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.